Help me hit 7,000 subscribers. Support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. I read everyone. Thank you. I never thought I'd hear from her again. Not after everything that happened. Not after the months of silence. Not after the divorce papers had been signed and the house was officially empty of her presence. My name is Elliot, and I'm 38. For 15 years, I thought marriage was supposed to feel like a quiet, steady comfort. The kind of love that doesn't need fireworks because it's already a warm glow. But what I got instead was months of quiet resentment, subtle withdrawals, and a slow, suffocating distance that left me feeling like a stranger in my own home. Her name was Clara, and when we first met, she had this infectious laugh that could light up a room, the kind of energy that made you forget your own troubles. I wasn't flashy or overly confident. I worked as an architect, had my own place, a reliable car, and I knew how to make people feel safe. That seemed to be enough. For the first 7 years, it was enough. We were a team, partners in every sense, laughing at the little things, sharing dreams, and occasionally stealing lazy Sunday mornings in bed just talking about nothing. Then things started to shift. Not overnight, not in a dramatic argument or a sudden revelation. Just slowly, subtly, almost imperceptibly. She stopped smiling when I entered the room, stopped asking about my day, and no longer made time for the small, affectionate gestures that had defined us. I tried to shrug it off at first. Work was stressful, life was busy, maybe she was tired. But months turned into a pattern, and that pattern carved a hollow in my chest I couldn't ignore. I'll never forget the night it became painfully clear. I had spent the whole week planning a small anniversary getaway. Just the two of us. A cozy cabin near the lake, candles, soft music, the works. I wanted to remind us of who we were before life and responsibility pulled us apart. When I picked her up, she seemed distant, tired, a little distracted. We got to the cabin, and the first few hours were quiet but tolerable. Then I reached for her hand, expecting that spark of recognition, that connection we once had. She flinched, not a playful, teasing flinch, a real one, the kind that makes your heart drop. I tried talking, gently, asking if something was wrong, if I'd done something to hurt her. She just sighed, muttered a half-hearted excuse about being overwhelmed, and returned to scrolling on her phone. I felt a flicker of anger, but more than that, I felt something I can't quite put into words, the unbearable weight of being invisible to someone you still care for deeply. That night, I realized that love doesn't always end with fireworks or betrayal. Sometimes it ends quietly, with absence, neglect, and the simple act of being ignored until there's nothing left to salvage. The divorce wasn't dramatic either. We sat across from each other, signed the papers, and exchanged the minimal words necessary to make it official. There were no screaming matches, no dramatic confrontations, just the cold, sterile acknowledgement that what we had was over. I moved out a week later, taking my things to a small apartment downtown, leaving her in the house that had once been ours, now only hers. For 2 months, I tried to keep myself busy. Work consumed most of my hours. Friends helped me laugh when the nights felt too quiet, and I slowly started to find pieces of myself again. Pieces that had been buried under years of compromise and quiet disappointment. I wasn't angry anymore. I wasn't bitter. I was just cautious, careful not to hope too much, careful not to invite pain back into a life that was finally beginning to feel steady again. And then she appeared. Not in person at first. It was a message, short, hesitant, almost unsure of itself. Elliot, can we start again? Please. My chest tightened. My mind raced, and 1,000 questions collided at once. Could someone who had left so completely, who had treated our shared life with such cold detachment, truly mean it when she asked for a second chance? Or was this just another version of the same cycle, a test of my patience, my pride, my heart? I stared at the screen for what felt like hours. Clara, who had once been everything familiar and safe, was now someone foreign. Someone who had walked away and left me to rebuild myself from the ground up. And yet, beneath the layers of hurt and caution, there was a tiny spark, a tiny flicker of the girl I had fallen in love with all those years ago. That spark was enough to make me pause. Enough to make me consider the impossible. I didn't reply immediately. I needed time to sift through the layers of emotion, betrayal, and memory that her message had stirred up. 2 months had passed since she walked away, and in that time, I had rebuilt pieces of myself I hadn't realized were missing. I was stronger now, more grounded, more certain of what I could and couldn't accept. And yet, her words, they carried a weight I couldn't ignore. Eventually, I typed back, carefully measured, "Clara, I need to know why. Not just that you want to start over, but why now? What's changed?" Her reply came almost instantly. "I was wrong, Elliot. I didn't realize what I had until it was gone. I've missed us. Missed you. I know I hurt you, but I can't stop thinking about us." I felt a surge of conflicting emotions: disbelief, hope, anger, and the faintest flicker of the old longing. But the clarity I had gained over the last 2 months reminded me that words alone weren't enough. Actions mattered. Intent mattered. Trust had to be rebuilt from the ground up, and she had dismantled it piece by piece when she walked away. Still, I agreed to meet. Not at the house we had shared, not in any place that held memories too sharp to handle, but at a small cafe halfway between our new lives. When I arrived, I spotted her immediately. Clara had changed, not drastically, not in a superficial way, but in her expression, her posture, the quiet weight she carried in her eyes. Gone was the casual indifference I remembered, replaced by hesitation and genuine remorse. "Hi, Elliot," she said softly, almost shyly, as she slid into the seat across from me. Her voice had that familiar warmth, but it was tempered now, laced with something I hadn't heard in a long time: accountability. "Clara," I said, voice steady but neutral. I had rehearsed nothing. I didn't want to overthink, didn't want to let old habits of self-doubt take over. We talked. Not about the past, not yet. Not about the years of neglect or the nights I felt invisible. We talked about the present, about where we were now as individuals, about what she had learned in the months apart. She spoke openly, without excuse, about the mistakes she had made, the distance she had allowed to grow, the pride that had kept her from seeing the damage she caused. I listened. I didn't interrupt, didn't interject. I let her speak. Then came the difficult part. Talking about us, the core of what had been lost, what might be regained. I asked the questions I needed answers to. Why do you think we can start over? What makes this different? Her eyes met mine, steady, sincere, and she said, "Because I'm ready to put in the work, Elliot. I want to be present. I want to be the partner I should have been all those years. I don't want to take you for granted again." Her words were comforting, but comfort wasn't enough. I needed proof. Time, consistency, actions. Those would tell me whether she truly meant it or whether this was another fleeting desire sparked by regret. I told her as much. I said, "I hear you, Clara. I appreciate your honesty, but this isn't something we can rush. I'm willing to see where this goes, but you need to show me, not just say it." Her nod was small, but firm, and for the first time in months, I felt a cautious glimmer of hope. Over the next few weeks, she began showing up in ways that mattered. She didn't just apologize. She actively tried to understand how her absence had affected me. She listened when I spoke, remembered the little things I loved, and made an effort to rebuild the trust we had lost. Slowly, painfully, the walls we had both built began to crumble. But this wasn't easy. Some nights, the weight of what had happened would creep back in. A quiet doubt, a fleeting memory of the loneliness I had endured, would surface, testing the fragile bonds of our renewed connection. And every time, Clara met that doubt with consistency, patience, and sincerity. She never asked me to forget. She just asked for a chance to make things right. One evening, about 6 weeks after our first meeting, we walked along the riverbank near the city. The sun was setting, casting a warm glow across the water. Clara took my hand, squeezed it gently, and said, "I know I can't erase the past, Elliot, but I want to be here with you in the present. Will you let me?" I paused. I looked at her, really looked, and in that moment I realized something. The pain of the past wasn't gone, and it wouldn't disappear overnight. But neither was the love that had brought us together in the first place. It was still there, quiet, steady, waiting for us to nurture it again. I squeezed her hand back, a slow smile breaking across my face. Yes, Clara, we'll try. Together. And just like that, 2 months after the divorce that had felt like an ending, we found ourselves beginning anew. Cautiously, carefully, but with a sense of hope neither of us had dared to feel for a long time. The journey ahead wouldn't be perfect, but it would be ours, rebuilt with intention, care, and the knowledge that second chances are rare and worth everything when they come.